Hello everyone, Nucleus here. Thanks for returning to this video series, PC Building for First Timers. So just a little bit of house cleaning before we get into the video proper. I kind of jumped the gun a little bit in the last video because I went into talking about the cooling solutions for your CPU, and I actually meant for that to be a separate video, but it's kind of a minor thing. But we will be going over another cooling solution before we get into storage solutions for your build. So, with that out of the way, let's get into the video.
So getting back to our discussion on cooling solutions, I have this here. This is a Galahad 2 from Lian Li. And that pump face came off. So this is a 360 millimeter radiator. It's technically a little longer than that because you have this extrusion here, but it takes three 120 millimeter fans. This is the pump, obviously the hose that goes to the radiator, and we have our copper cold plate. And much like the bottom of the Master Air 620A, this interfaces with the IHS. Of course, there's going to be a thin layer of thermal grease or thermal paste between them to facilitate that transfer of heat. With this one in particular, this is actually the retention bracket for the Intel LGA 1700 socket, if I remember correctly. We won't be using this we won't be using this pump. We're definitely going to stick with the dual tower cooler. But I did want to show you this for those of you who probably haven't at least seen the build vlog for the custom water loop I'm building. So I'm definitely not going to switch this out because here I had a little electrical accident with a previous build that I was doing. So this thing is toast, but I thought that you should see it. See it anyway. I did have two downfiring coolers that I had already installed into PCs, but those are rack mounted, and I don't want to go through the hassle of taking them out. But with those, they do have one of them especially is a a Be Quiet Dark Rock. Actually, I don't think it's a Dark Rock. I'll show pictures of the two downfiring CPU cores that I use. One was from Be Quiet, and the other's from Noctua. With the one from Be Quiet, same consideration as with this dual tower solution. You want to make sure that there is sufficient clearance for your RAM sticks. The other one from Noctua, that one is kind of interesting because it is you would see it if you saw it, and I will show a picture of it for you. It basically covers the entire socket. It's very low profile, so you don't have to worry about clearance with the RAM sticks, but it's also meant for probably more of a lower power CPU than what we have here. It might be sufficient for this one, but definitely meant for lower powered CPUs. Plus, when you also have to take in consideration certain cases, it will probably be ideal for. And for the computer that I have it in, is definitely ideal for. It doesn't have the vertical room for anything taller. So, but continuing on from that, I wanted to get into storage. So storage is going to be a pretty important issue for not just this build, of course, but for things that you want to consider when you're building your own PC. So So the first one we're going to do is kind of the classic old school mechanical hard drive. This is a Western Digital black hard drive. Um, so what makes these mechanical is in here, this is a small motor. On the inside also are spindles, or actually platters, where the data is written to. There is a small actuator arm that goes across those platters to write your data. Here we have the SATA 3 or SATA Generation 3 connector. This is SATA power. This will go to a connector connected to a cable that goes straight to the power supply, supplying this with power. This is for data transfer, obviously. The You can see the here on the motherboard. These are the SATA connections or SATA ports for the motherboard. And we have our SATA cable. This one is has the 90-degree connector. So depending on the setup for your particular case, you may need to have your 90 here on the hard drive side. Very rarely will you see your 90 on the motherboard side. Not to say that it can't happen or it doesn't happen. It's just kind of rare. But as you can see, depending on case layout, that 90 would definitely work on your lower SATA connections, SATA motherboard connections. And with these, has a little metal clip, kind of make sure that that physical connection is secure. And so, and typically with these mechanical hard drives, of course, Western Digital is not the only brand. You have, of course, Toshiba and Seagate, but they come in a variety of different sizes and actually speed. So this one in particular has a 7,200 RPM speed, and that's how fast that spindle can spin up, or how fast that motor can spin that platter. With Western Digital, outside of anything used for commercial purposes, I've probably only seen up to about 8 terabytes. And Western Digital has a bunch of different categories for their hard drives. And if you're interested in learning about the different Western Digital hard drives, drop a comment in the drop a comment asking for a video, and I'll go ahead through it and talk about them. So the other thing, because this technology has been around for such a long time, these mechanical hard drives tend to be a little cheaper. They get a little more expensive as you get into the higher capacities, but still relatively affordable. So we are going to include this into our build. It won't be our boot drive, but we're definitely going to make use of it. So now this, and I almost kind of forgot to mention when you're talking about kind of the sizes of this. This would be your 3.5-inch drive. This is a 2.5-inch drive. This is, as you can see, a solid-state drive from OCZ, which is a Toshiba brand. The thing about solid-state drives is, unlike mechanical drives, there's nothing mechanical about it. It's all chips, and that's what makes these faster than these. There's no moving parts whatsoever, and it's all about read and write speed. Now, it's still the same. Uses the same SATA power and SATA 3 connectors as the mechanical drive, but uh, this is inherently much faster. So as opposed to the RPM speed, which for the mechanical uh, solid state drives, they do have a read write speed, and typically the faster the read write speed, also that means the more expensive your solid state drive is going to be. So, and finally, well, actually, I'll include this one too. So this is also another 2.5 inch, or yes, 2.5 inch drive. Except this one is mechanical. You would typically see these in laptops. Um, Not quite so sure you would see them anymore in modern laptops, but this one I pulled out of a external hard drive. This is a Seagate 1 terabyte model. I I would have to look up the part number to tell you what the actual speed is that the platters would spin. But this is your 2.5 inch mechanical drive. And lastly is this. This is another kind of solid state drive. This is uh, our NVMe solid state drive. Uh, like the 2.5 inch, it too basically has chips in which the data is read and written to, is read from and written to. Uh, it's also the ratings for these, or the cost for these, are kind of associated with their read and write speed, but these are typically more are faster than these because these use that SATA connection to transfer data, while these use these M.2 connectors you see here on the motherboard. Now those are connected to the PCIe lanes that we would normally have our expansion cards in. So the rate of transfer for data is significantly faster. And while I haven't had issues with this one, uh, these are known to overheat simply because, particularly with this one is for PCIe Gen 3, which is what these slots here are. This is what this motherboard is rated for. PCIe Gen 5, the data transfer speeds are so high, and then the read write speeds for these SSDs, at least the PCIe Gen 5 SSDs, are so fast that they are prone to overheating. And so some of them you are going to see come with heat sinks, some not. Um, but we're going to use this. This is a Crucial P3 500 gigabyte SSD, and that's going to go in here. This will be our boot drive, and which we put our operating system on, and some of our other applications, antivirus, maybe some word processing. Um, Basically that's where our bulk of our applications are going to be. We're not going to use this for, well, to prevent this from getting, having all the memory eaten up quickly from storing, video files, images, sound files, and whatnot. That's what the mechanical hard drive is going to be used for, storage for things of that nature. One of the things too, that you'll see some people who use M.2s or a lot of M.2s is because of their speed, their read and write speeds. Some people will use them for files that need to be read and written to quite often. Like you need to have access to those files really quickly. So when it comes to content creators, they'll use these for their as a scratch drive. So they'll store like raw video files there, which they can access pretty quickly to their for their video editing software. Um, Now, uh, the other thing besides the read and write speeds that can increase the cost of these is the memory capacity. So, as far as I've been able to find, both at Micro Center and Newegg and Amazon, is the uh, 4 gigabyte capacity is typically what you'll find these in. Not this one. This particular SSD. It's about $50 last I saw on Amazon. But the PCIe Gen 5 ones, because they're super fast um, and have like extremely fast read and write speeds, the higher capacities, those 4 gigabyte uh, versions of these, they typically can run you into the $500 to $600 range. You know, um, some include heat sinks, which can also kind of bump that price up. But the Gen 5s are pretty expensive. This one right here is Gen 3. Before we go ahead and install this, I'll have to point this out. So here's a slot where it will slot into. Um, Here are these different posts or sections where we could move this post basically correspond to the lengths of the SSD. Typically, uh, as far as this one goes, this is generally the size you're most likely going to see them in. Um, I have not seen any. It's probably been a while since I've seen any that have required the furthest slot. But typically, you're going to find them in this. You will find them in the smaller form factor, typically because they're probably going to be inside of a laptop. If you ever see something that small, at least within these two lengths. So with that, we will get this installed and mounted to the board. We won't be seeing this installed until we get to the case portion of the series. But that's when this hard drive is going to get installed, because I believe the case that I have picked out has some hard drive carriers for from these mechanical, and typically they also those some hard drive um, sleds or carriers also will support the 2.5 inch SSDs. Typically they'll have some way to mount it to the tray through these screws on the bottom. You can also tell that there are screws on the bottom of this one, and that's kind of going to be, whether or not you're going to be using these will be dictated by just by the case design and what the sleds require. Typically, they usually have a simpler solution that makes use of the side mounting holes that you'll find on one of these drives. So let's go ahead and get this started, and then we will update the PC part picker list with our two storage solutions. I did forget to add in our Cooler Master cooler for the last video, but it's already on the list now. So let's get started. All right, here we are back at our PC part picker list, and it looks like I forgot to include the memory, which we also installed in the last video. So let's go ahead and add that, and we'll add in our excuse me, add in our storage selections. So our memory was G.Skill DDR4 64 gig kit. What am I looking for? Let's uh, let's do it by speed. Okay. Our speed was a 3,000 mega transfers per second kit. We had G.Skill Ripjaws V64 gig kit. That's a DDR 4000 Ripjaws. Actually, I believe. I believe this actually might be. Is that 3200 kit? It's 36. So, oh, okay. G.Skill Ripjaws V64 gigabyte DDR4 3600. To yeah, this one. Okay. So now we have our memory. Now let's add in our storage, which will be Crucial SSD, PCI 3.0, and then we'll sort it by capacity. And ours was a 500 gigabyte stick, Crucial P3. And then we will add in our mechanical hard drive. It's Western Digital 7200 RPM, 3.5, SATA 6, and then we'll sort it by capacity again. And ours was a 2 terabyte black. 2 terabyte black. Let's be sure. Oops. There we go. 2 terabyte black. Add it in, and that is our that is our build as of right now. All right. And there we are, pretty painless. If you have noticed from the previous video, when it comes to the new the M.2 slots for new motherboards, they have gotten rid of the not necessarily the different peg selections, but they have gone with a toolless option where you can just insert the M.2 into the slot, and then it kind of clips in, as opposed to having to screw them down. But that's probably something you're going to see more on more premium boards, as this is probably either cheaper, or actually the tools solution might actually end up being cheaper. So, but that's going to be it for this video. Um, I will be back in the next video, and we're going to talk about GPUs. So, with that, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.